Yeah, good morning to everyone. But I think we've got 35 participants, but for some reason we can't see all of them. Is there a reason?
Yep.
We're good to go with the stream.
So Ronnie, we are starting off now, and we're starting with a quick video. A very warm welcome, everyone.
There's no sound.
Iman, you're on mute. So, Iman, there's no sound. I think you're on mute.
Then actually the sound of the video isn't playing. Sorry.
Was it audible?
No.
All right, was it audible? Oh, you can see that. Was my screen?
The video we could see, but not hear.
The audio could not be listened. All right, interesting then. All right, hold on. All right, so we just started with a little bit of a tech glitch. Mr. Murphy at it again. Hello, everyone, and thank you for everyone that has logged in. At the turn of the hour, we see 43 participants, and we have our esteemed panelists with us. I just take a moment and introduce myself. I am Minaxi Indra. I am your moderator for the day today. I lead an uber-passionate and customer-obsessed team at upGrad Enterprise. A little bit about me. I did my master's at IIM Bangalore, and I'm hyper motivated by building businesses and teams that positively impact our customers and the marketplace. Prior to upGrad, I worked with technology leaders in business development and customer management roles, which included leadership roles at Uber and LinkedIn. And prior to that, revenue generating roles across SAP, Cisco, and IBM. upGrad's mission of building the careers of tomorrow and impact at scale are closely aligned with my own professional principles. And this alignment has brought me to my current engagement at upGrad. Currently, I lead the end-to-end business operations for upGrad Enterprise, which is our specialized offering for companies. And we enable the customer upskilling through deep learning and the global university partnerships that we have. As a business, we are very focused on delivering outcomes to organizations such as all of yours. And our team works very closely with HR heads, L&D heads, sales, delivery, and finance professionals in your organization with the objective of building mutually successful deep learning partnerships. You are aware that upGrad has an industry-leading 90% completion rate of the programs that we have. It's a robust technology platform. The approach of learning is outcome-based, and we constantly keep reinventing our industry-relevant curriculum. We partner with organizations such as the ones that you see on your screen today across conglomerates, public sector, enterprises, and mid-market companies. We are glad to share that upGrad delivers almost 80% learner success, which is pretty much the best in the industry at this point in time, and 100% business outcomes. Over the next 45 to 50 minutes, our panelists and I will be sharing our collective experiences and transformations that we have seen in the HR space in India, the trends driving the future of work, and giving each one of us in our audience the tools to leverage this for our own organizations. Based on our engagement in the market, over the past year or so, we have built 10 compelling value propositions, or 10 commandments, if you would, for the organizations to leverage and for learning and development to really demonstrate business outcomes. With this, it's my absolute pleasure to introduce our panel of industry experts. 1 second, please. Of industry experts and HR learners of your screen. I am going to start with Sunita. Thank you so much, Sunita, for being a part of this panel today. Sunita is the talent and development lead at AstraZeneca's GTC in Chennai. Her passion lies in facilitating learning, leadership capabilities, cultural transformation, while creating strategies for employees to maximize their performance and partnering with her business collaborators to build a shared vision-driven approach. And she is very focused on an ecosystem that embraces creativity, diversity, and inclusion. Sunita, of course, has 17 years of experience with a steadfast focus on learning and talent development across value-based organization in several domains in very, very evolving roles with the scope to work on challenging projects and creative solutions. Thank you for your time, Sunita, and we look forward to hearing a lot more from you over the next 45 minutes. From Sunita, we move on to Sudhi, who's on your screen. Sudhi is the principal consultant at Fractal and is one of the most prominent players in the artificial intelligence space. He has a storied career spanning leadership roles across Cognizant, Genpact, and GE Capital. At Fractal, he is completely aligned with their vision to power every employee human decision in the enterprise using the power of artificial intelligence. And this has led them collectively to become the most admired Fortune 500 companies globally. Thank you for being here, Sudhir, and we look forward to hearing the magnificent deliveries that you've had with your organization and with our collective partnership. From Sudhir, we move. Okay, thanks, Sudhir. From Sudhir, we move to Stanley. Stanley represents PowerGrid today. He is the head for learning and development vertical at PowerGrid, and his responsibilities include catering to the learning needs of 10,000 plus workforce. Definitely not an enviable role, Stanley, to manage such a hefty workforce. He is currently deeply involved in competency mapping, identifying skills and gaps, and rolling out learning offerings that include all modalities of learning, be it virtual, classroom, or blended. He is also very engaged in enabling the assessment development centers for senior organizations and senior executives in their organization, such that they're able to occupy critical learning and leadership roles within the company and build individual development plans for each of their leaders. Prior to this current role at PowerGrid, he led the HR vertical for two of the biggest regions of PowerGrid, spanning over about 12 years. Welcome to this session, Stanley, and we look forward to hearing a lot more about the goodness that you have with PowerGrid and the interesting anecdotes that you can share with us.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks, Stanley. And from Stanley, we move on to our fourth customer panelist, Deepesh. Deepesh represents PwC today, and he's a specialist in management consulting, healthcare, and analytics. He currently serves as the Director, Healthcare and Analytics at PwC. He's worked here for the past 6 years, rising from the ranks of a senior associate to manager to director in the field of healthcare and analytics. Prior to this role, he was the program manager at HealthBridge Advisors and worked as the EVP Operations Quality Assurance at Ola. He's an alumni of ISB Hyderabad and IIT Kanpur. Good to have you here with us, Deepesh.
Thank you, Minaxi. Look forward to a conversation.
Likewise. And with that, we come to our four panelists. And with that, I bring us to our upGrad panelists. So Mayank is up on the screen. He's the first our founder and managing director. I'm sure most of us have had some engagement or the other with Mayank. It's a great joy to introduce you, Mayank, to this session. Mayank is, of course, a passionate educator, and before founding upGrad in 2015, he was part of investments of over $1 billion flowing into the education sector from emerging markets. He is an ISB and IIT Delhi alumni and worked with Tata Group of Strategic Management as a business analyst, with Bertman India Investments as their VP, and at the Partner Group as the senior principal. At upGrad, Mayank is hyper-focused on the overall business growth and strategy, team building, and the strategic partnerships. Look forward to hearing a lot of the insights from you, Mayank, as we get going. And last but not least, it's my immense pleasure and delight to introduce Ronnie Screwvala, our co-founder and chairman, as our co-panelist. Apart from the role that he does at upGrad, Ronnie is also the founder of Swadesh Foundation, a philanthropic organization started in 2004 with a vision to eradicate poverty. He is also the founder of Unilaser Ventures and has made significant investments in the Indian new economic companies and startups under the brand name of the company. As a media pioneer, which is what we know him for the last couple of decades, Ronnie founded UTV Media and Entertainment in 1990, which has created over 70 movie titles, which we have loved, and won over 350 awards, which includes 20 national awards. Thank you for joining us today, Ronnie.
Thank you. Looking forward.
All right, so with this, we have completed our panelist introductions, and the forum and the objective of our session today is we are going to be discussing 3 broad themes under a topic of reimagining enterprise learning and leading with outcomes. I have put them on our screen for our consumption. The top 3 that we are looking for is understanding from our audience and hearing it from our panelists as well in terms of how important is achieving higher productivity through human-assisted learning for them. How are they building a future-ready workforce with effective skill transfer across their employee life cycle? And also understanding collectively about creating an outcome-driven learning solutions across the board, which caters to maybe customized offerings of different enterprises and organizations. So these are the broader themes that we have. And with this, I'm going to take a pause and request Ronnie to keynote us and talk to us about his experience in the edtech space, what are the trends that he's seen, and the exciting possibilities in this space.
Thank you. Are we going to remove this presentation so we can see each other? Because it's nice to, yeah, lovely. Thank you so much. Well, good morning, everyone. I mean, under normal circumstances, I don't think 72 of us would have got together with such promptness, alacrity, convenience. So I think we're living in a little bit of a different time. I think one of the first things that this present pandemic has taught us, amongst many things that each one of us will take away at some stage, is what it's done to habits. And for me, I think it's a very important one because habits is the core. In many ways, it kind of defines us as individuals, as leaders, as employees, as colleagues, and whatever else. And I think it's kind of put a dynamite stick to habits forcefully. But actually, I think the outcome of actually all of us reinventing ourselves because our habits have been so heavily disrupted, I think is going to lead to a lot of rejuvenation and a completely different approach to what we want to do. And I think as individuals, as leaders, or as corporates, and each one having their own hierarchy of culture of how we look at that, because I think, you know, as an individual, you have a different perspective, and that fits into your personal life and your work life. And then when you look at it from an organizational point of view, obviously you have to invite that into the culture, because collectively, how are people going to look at this other than, you know, has work for home changed my life and has commuting 1.5 hours changed my life? So I think that's just one broad thought I want to leave for everyone, especially people, because most of us are in some fact impacting lives, impacting minds, impacting people. And I think if it leads from there, we should think about how disrupting habits have actually had an impact for us. The other thing that's been my learning overall, and that's also because one operates in a not-for-profit space, but really partly from my media days and now in the education space, is how do we change mindsets and how do we really preempt trends? And I think if we succeeded as much as we failed in our media avatar, it was because we were maybe a little half a step or one step ahead in being able to preempt trends and taking a lot of people in their mindsets to go forward. And my best example I can give you, which I think is relevant for today's group, is are we really open-minded for harnessing technology and changing consumer habits? I know that when we were doing conventional media, to get advertisers and media buying houses and marketing heads and CEOs of company to even look at digital marketing, they would always have a 95% would be the normal conventional newspapers and television communication, and 5%. And after about a lot of convincing, 5% allocation from digital would go to 6%, you know? So I think one of the biggest challenges that technology and consumers lead for us is how do we change mindsets amongst ourselves, and are we really adapting and adopting and acknowledging things in a much more at a pace where I know all of us feel that the risk that we take of not knowing the unknown, but my particular guideline and message to everyone would be, do we really have a choice? Do we really have a choice at this point in time to be sort of what I would say thoughtful, which I think we need to be, but so thoughtful that we want to see what we want to do. So with these premises is really why we all got together, Mayank, myself, and our co-founders to look at the education space and the edtech space. The K-12 space has a different charm to what we want to do, but we are very committed that the vision for us is to be that anyone after K-12 and therefore moving out of the 12th standard, how do we be their lifelong coach and partner for a long period of time? Now, one can always frame this and say, oh, this is a nice reception vision statement on a glass that 5 people got together and wrote. But how do you turn that into an absolute reality? And I think we were very serious right from the beginning. And I think when we would be working together, our strengths was that we spent the first 2 years really understanding consumer and technology. And I'm a strong believer in the fact that most of us feels, are we keeping in pace with technology? And I'm saying, hello, but I think we also need to keep in pace with the consumers, because just technology alone is not a gratifying element for it to spearhead. So what comes first, the chicken or the egg, sometimes is something that we all know. Now, consumers to each of us may be different. For us, it could be team members and employees. For other people, it could be the outside consumer. For B2B companies, it could be really other corporates and clients. But that's where I think the sort of giant wheel of motion moves there. So we were already committed to really look at lifelong learning. And I know, again, that's a cliched term. One was, how do we take anonymity out and how do we take loneliness out of the concept of technology and online learning? And the second one was really for us that how do we get the best peer-to-peer learning? Again, what I bring to the table, and I think all of us as learning heads and HR people and leaders of organizations, I think we all understand the power of storytelling. And having bridged my 15 years in media and now looking at the next 15 to 20 years in education, I can only say that the commonality between that, which is really the epicenter of all leadership, is that ability to be able to inspire and tell stories. So how do we make the online space 10x more engaging for learners to feel that they're learning? Which is why, our courses that we have, 30% is really from faculty and 70% is from industry professionals, including many of you all who have participated in this. So that's really been our big vision. And I just sort of end by saying, for us, with you all, or in our approach where we've got learners, outcomes has been the most important part. And I know for a lot of people look at education, you normally look at it with a little bit of disdain because for the last 4 or 5 years, there's been a fair amount of what I would call content consumption under the guise of online learning. And obviously that doesn't work. My main worry today is also that what has happened since COVID is all of us, from organizations to universities to faculties to deans, to the consumer itself, oh God, online is now getting more legitimacy. But for most people, it's still a live lecture and a camera in front of you. And that's a big concern for us because that's not the takeaway. If that's how online learning, whether we do it on a corporate basis, whether we do it on a single basis, whether we do it on a group basis, that transition has to come where it's very clear and important that it's a deep learning experience. So for us, that 80% of our people finish our 11-month, 12-month course is huge affidavit and a huge endorsement for us that we're doing something right in terms of the learning experience. We find that the first 2 months, it's extremely lonely for them, which is where our counselors really react with them. I think our biggest compliment we get is at the digital graduation ceremony, where any learner, they're all working professionals, actually thanks the 2 counselors at upGrad, things that we would have done in our graduation ceremony where we would have thanked the dean or thanked the principal. So for us, deep learning and lifelong learning is no longer just how do we fix this year and next year. And I think as much as we make 5-year corporate plans, and I know in many aspects, even in HR and in learning, we do make 5-year plans, but understanding how today's generation is going to stick in jobs. I'm a product of soft skills. I'm not a product of degrees. And I can say that having mixed and married these two, how important are we doing for each of us to be much more debate worthy, much more conversation worthy, much more ability for each of our managers at various stages to really lead people. Because I think the minute we kind of move from one to the next, where you're reporting, 5 people report to you, you're already a leader, but you're never ready to be a leader. And then it just moves along the whole path of growth and promotions and designations, but you haven't really got that core soft skills. And I think the online learning and the digital element outside of technology and consumer can do the deep learning part, but also complement in the soft skills part. So that's pretty much what I sort of wanted to cover. I hope we all can disrupt our habits and capitalize on a long-term benefit of what we're all going through here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ronnie. Very insightful, and a few of the thoughts that you mentioned like really resonate with our audience. And when we speak to one-on-one conversations that we have in the market, whether we talk about impact or disruption, all of this needs to be done in a very thoughtful manner. You spoke about the misnomer of online learning, which was very interesting. For a lot of us, this is as live as it gets, but again, maybe the modality is different, and absolutely aligned in terms of the deep learning focus and the lifelong learning that we have. Thanks for getting us teed off, Ronnie. With that, we are going to open it up for the questions. For everyone attending in our audience, please feel free to share your questions in the chat window as well. We will keep a lookout on that. In case if you have a specific question for one of our panelists, please mention their names as well. We wish for it to be as interactive in terms of us addressing all the queries. I'll get us rolled on. So Sudhi, the first one is coming your way. A recent Gartner report actually speaks about HR leaders prioritizing building critical skills and competencies in their organization. And if memory serves me right, it's about 68% of them have given this overwhelming yardstick. You have delivered this for your organization. What are the value additions that you were able to create at Fractal that enabled your workforce to deal with this evolving business and learning landscape?
Great, thank you so much. Minaxi, I think it's a great question. If we go and basically search for what skills do I need to learn today, you'll be hit with 400 to 500 plus skills. On top of it, there are several learning platforms delivering the same skills in a variety of courses. So it's really very confusing. So one, we wanted to get clarity on what skills are very important, which will make our people future ready. Right? At the same time, we should not lose sight of here and now priorities as well. So we came up with a learning grid, which classified skills into by proficiencies, but more importantly, by career track. We have three disciplines that we emphasize: AI, engineering, and design. Okay, and each play a different role in 6 different types of career tracks that we have at Fractal. And we organized all our skills around these 3 core disciplines on technical side, and said for these type of careers, these are the skills that are very important. And this is how you go from L1 to L3 or L4 or L5. So kind of giving that path, which adds clarity. Obviously, there is a caveat to this. It's not a straight line path to move from L1 to L5, right? That's the visual understanding people will have. I have all of these skills, and then if I acquire all of these skills, okay, I should get promoted, I should get a bigger job, I should get bigger set of responsibilities. What's also very important is, in addition to skills, you should also understand how do you apply these skills, create value, which is very long lasting for our clients, and demonstrate that you're able to translate a skill that you've learned into actual value in real work. So these emphasis kind of re-emphasize the importance of learning, but also re-emphasize the importance of gaining experience over a longer period of time. And like Ronnie said, I think many of us are product of soft skills. As much as we emphasize very much on hard skills, I think soft skills are the ones that are very, very hard to master. So building awareness on soft skills will actually translate people, will make people more aware, and hopefully will move them to the path where they ought to be moving.
Very valid, Sudhir. The importance of soft skill is something that we cannot negate. Just a quick follow-up. You mentioned about 40x ROI when we looked at your introduction earlier. So did you have to cross-collaborate a lot? How did you get about doing it? Because our audience is very measurement-oriented, and this number does stay back. I'm sure a lot of them are going to take this number back with them to their organization.
Yeah, I mean, the more than the 40x, let's just look at how the return on investment is being calculated over here, right? Number one, okay, we partner with upGrad for campus, for all the campus hires that we take. We don't want them to lose the last semester. Is typically lower load from a education perspective. They're doing the projects. We said, why not capitalize on it and then do the learning, right? So that's one of the early adventures that we did with upGrad, and I think it's paid off really very well, 95% plus completion rate. is something was unheard of. And I think thanks to upGrad, we were able to achieve that. Very importantly, what it adds is it adds to pace in learning and tells people that when you come on to work, we'll re-emphasize these skills, we make you practice it, you go deep in some of these skills and start working on your projects, right? So it adds to productivity. So the campus has, it's a huge boost in productivity that we get when we partner with pre-boarding solutions that upGrad brings. Very focused set of learning modules completed, okay, score yourself against your peers, okay, and see where you stand. And then if you truly enjoy this learning, you have an option to continue it at a later point in time with upGrad as well. So that makes it very attractive. So we don't, we start the learning early, and when they come and join us, we focus on re-emphasize these skills again in a much shorter span of time. So they get on to actual productive work much faster than what a traditional campus would take. I used to remember the days in 1999, 2000, all the IT majors would spend about 6 to 9 months training people, right? And that we have collapsed to less than 4 weeks now. So that's actually a 6x improvement if you look at it, right? Okay.
Wow.
That's how you see the return of investment coming back to you, right? Obviously, there's a lot to learn. Again, if you provide the clarity with a focused set of learning, and this is what new hires would be able to try, expected to do, you can backward calculate which learning modules that you want to have, and therefore you will come back very focused on these are skills that are focused on the campus has, and this is the amount of time that will, instead of spending 6 months to 9 months on training, I'll only focus on 1 month while they're on the job, and very quickly get onto the project and get them live experience. And it's also a huge moral boost for new employees as well. They are raring to go. That energy is very raw, right? Okay. If you keep them in classroom, you're probably curbing their energy levels and creative levels, right? Take them out of the classroom as soon as possible, okay, and put them into live work. And the only way you can do is, shorten the overall amount of time that you spend on them.
Very well said, Sudhir. In fact, you've covered a lot of the topics, and I like the step-by-step approach. You've also busted some of our myths in terms of classroom and the longer cycle of getting employees productive. So thank you so much for that. Appreciate that. Deepesh, are we audible to you?
Yep. Can you hear me, Minaxi?
Yes, Deepesh can hear you. Thank you. My next one's coming to you. As you've spoken about a future-ready workforce in quite a few of our conversations. This involves a significant level of change management. Could you share your experiences in building this for your current or previous organizations?
Okay, so frankly, in my role at director at PwC, L&D is, not something I used to do even in my previous organization. But in PwC, I got this role to lead the L&D about 2 to 3 years ago. That's when I started looking into it. And one of the key things that we were looking to change was like most of the hires that we have in the organization, we used to hire from campuses. And we had like a batch of almost 35 to 40 people joining us from top tier engineering schools like IITs and top tier B schools like ISB and IIMS every year. And one of the major challenges that we were having is when they used to join us, we used to have a training for almost a month, which meant a lot of loss of revenue and utilization for us. So it was critical for us and critical for me to change that. And one of the major hurdles that we faced as a team was the fact that everybody felt that face-to-face interaction is a must for any kind of imparting any kind of learning or training. And this was a big hurdle because it was very difficult to convince even the leaders in the organization that it is we are losing a lot of revenue and utilization, and it is must that we transition this quickly. I think when we and that's the reason we started even conversations with upGrad like almost 3 years ago, and it took me like 2.5 and 3 years to make it happen. And I mean, one thing which was we were very fortunate in the sense that, this year when we finally made it happen, we started this conversation with upGrad like last December, and COVID happened in Feb. And now everybody in the, in the leadership team believes that had we not gone with upGrad, we would have been in a very, big trouble this June, because, we had, like, if we had gone with the traditional path of, trying to ensure all the trainings face-to-face, it would have been impossible. So now, in terms of change management, I think one big push which really helped was obviously the fact that we were losing revenue of almost to the tune of $300,000. So it was a lot of revenue loss for our organization if, when 1 month people are not being able to staff on the projects. So I think that was one key push which really helped, because everybody understands money. Like, people don't understand anything else, but everybody understands money. So I think that was one key thing which really helped us.
Deepesh, a very valid point, and in fact, we're very glad for this partnership. Like, we didn't get into the partnership knowing about the COVID, but glad to see that this provided the impetus and the tailwinds and the current situation that we find ourselves in. I really like your point about the business revenues. What's the kind of money that's getting lost, and how can, let's say, an L&D and a business partner together for the joint goals, and the great importance that's on employees to learn and upskill themselves. So thank you so much for that, Deepesh. I will come back to you, and I'm sure, and our panelists, please keep a watch on the questions as well. In case if there are some that are tagged to you, please help us respond back to those. So from Deepesh, I'll move to Stanley. Stanley, you've been at the forefront of our PowerGrid engagement. PowerGrid is looking at leveraging technology in the best means possible. As you look back, what are some of the primary business areas or processes that you were looking at optimizing from an upskilling perspective? And in the partnership that we've culminated on, where's the impact that you are visualizing for your organization?
So thank you, Minaxi. Thank you. And I'm really impressed by the thoughts that Ronnie shared in the beginning. The COVID situation has had a lot of negative things, but for learning areas, I think it has had a lot of positive impact. And very especially in PowerGrid, it gave us some time to have a relook at the legacy systems and move in, and it has accelerated that process. We believe that learning is an exigency of work. So learning doesn't happen for the sake of learning. Learning is something which should happen as a demand of the situation and the work that people are put in. So we have relooked at our learning strategies especially in the last 7-8 months. And we have come out with a learner-focused learning strategy, wherein we are trying to feed the curiosity of the people. This is some paradigm that we have tried to shift from, feed on the curiosity of people. And so we have worked on few themes that are required to be worked on in the coming months, and we have actively worked on that. DA and AI and ML course, which we are partnering with upGrad, is one of those courses, because we realize that there has to be a digital push, and COVID has given us a digital push during these times. And we need a digitally intelligent workforce who can handle the kind of situations that are there. You would all realize that PowerGrid is in the energy infrastructure sector, transmission sector. While all of us were working from home, you had 24/7 electricity coming to your home thanks to the network that we are having. So the need of our situation, need of our infrastructure never diminished during these times, but the strategy of learning definitely changed. So from a classroom top-down kind of a learning methodology, we have now are working on a pull-down, empowering the employees as to curate the learning experiences. And this is where upGrad and so many other learning partners that we are having have come in very helpful for us, because we believe time is ripe for a pull-down kind of a learning strategy, where the learner curates his learning experience according to the demand of the work that the one is put into. So we are offering a bouquet of learning offerings these days. Classroom training has moved to virtual trainings. We also have content-based training where fixed courses are been made specific to the learning outcomes that we require. And so things have very positively moved in the last few months, and we are really excited that the coming few years would be very exciting times for L&D, and where we will be actively participating with the business leaders to deliver learning outcomes in a very positive way. Thank you.
Thank you, Stanley, and we are very glad for this partnership and very invested in working with you and going with you on how you look at empowering your employees, disrupting the norm. And I was very glad to see that feeding the curiosity that you spoke about. There's a passionate workforce. How do you kind of elevate the engagement for them as well? So thanks for that. Sunita, I'm coming to you now. In fact, the poll that we had started at the beginning of this session, we saw that most of our audience has spoken about business growth as one of the core business objectives that they're talking about. And I guess you'll be well placed to address that for us. So what I actually want to check with you is, from a business growth perspective, from a human-assisted learning, from the learning and the people development that you're hyper passionate about, how do you think organizations can drive higher productive and real business outcomes for their employee and their workforce, creating a win-win all around?
First of all, thank you so much for having me as part of this panel. Great points, great insights from all of the speakers that have spoken just before me. I hope the audience is also enjoying this interaction. I think, first of all, one of the things that I do certainly believe that learning is always important, has always been important, but it has now become up front center everywhere, that we need to upskill ourselves. We need to reskill ourselves. The demands that is coming across any business. I mean, I would say that pharma companies were sort of late adapters to IT. Therefore, the digital journey is something that you'll see across pharma companies starting probably only a couple of years ago, or we're just starting up, or they have plans to start up. But COVID has changed everything. Just work from home and virtual presence and virtual interaction in itself has been a major digital shift that we've moved into. So learning in itself, a lot of people I saw were drawn to using this time for upskilling and for reskilling and building their and picking up new skills. And I think digital, the presence of digital tools, especially, I think it was perfect timing. Our partnership came into AstraZeneca. I think we provided a great opportunity for our learners to pick up, enhanced skills on AI, ML, and data analytics. It was an opportunity for us to prepare, a certain percentage of our talent to take on key projects that we foresaw coming to us from businesses. Pharma and life sciences industry, if you see, there's always a demand to be there faster, to provide, the drugs as of, to respect the urgency of the patients and to provide solutions and drugs immediately. You can see the urgency with which the vaccines are operating across the globe. So just the need in our industry, specifically to pharma life sciences industry, is to make it faster. And IT is the force behind all of this, making sure that your pace is faster, your accuracy gets better, you get the right data on time, you get the right intelligence on time, you get predictive analytics, you get, market analytics. All of this is empowered by IT, to be very honest. And I think it's very important today for organizations, if not earlier on, but to now understand that the way we work is going to change. The ways of working already has changed quite a bit, significantly. The way we learn has taken a rapid shift from classroom training, traditional classroom training, to not only being online and digital, but learning has now become more and more about behavior and psychology. So it's not merely the technology, but the behavior and psychology. And I think upGrad is doing a great job in sort of bringing this together by making it, bringing in the human-centered approach, right? I love the concept of learning coaches. One of the things that we do even in our programs is have something called Coaching Connects. And these Coaching Connects help in sustenance of learning. And that's the most important part of learning, right? Learning is not a one-time event. I can pick up something, I can learn something, but I need to take it forward. I need to build the right exposure for myself through what I have learned. I need to be able to apply it to create the right experiences for myself for what I have learned. So how do we do that? And one of the ways in doing that and getting over challenges is also to continue with that sustained approach of Coaching Connects, where that model, the human-centric model and the human touch, is still there to keep you on the path. I always see it like the diets and the running and all of these habits, like Ronnie mentioned, that we pick up, right? Sometimes in the beginning we need buddies. We need that somebody who's with us, who'll run with us, who'll say, "Hey, come on, don't put the snooze button on. Just wake up and come on and let's hit the road." You're doing well, let's keep at it. Sometimes learning also needs that, and I think this is a beautiful approach.
Wonderful. Thanks for sharing, Sunita, and completely resonate that it's going to be continuous, it's going to be ongoing. There's a lot of support and ecosystem that needs to be provided, and if they're able to do that, business growth is a very obvious and a just outcome. Sudhi, thank you for answering the questions on the panel as well, and Mayank, thanks for that too. So Sunita, there are a couple of questions regarding your role and your job, so I'll leave it to you to there's a lot of curiosity around vaccines. I don't know if you're going to be able to address those, but just wanted to let you know that you have piqued everyone's interest, not just on the topic that you're talking about, but the business and the industry that you're in. So thanks for that. Mayank, I haven't circled back with you. I actually have a two-part question for you. So in fact, as one of the founders of our organization, we clearly see a lot of attention across the board for online learning. From your perspective, what are the trends that you see in the market regards online learning, higher learning? And pretty much more specific to this audience, what were your drivers in ensuring that upGrad had a specific enterprise focus or a B2B focus?
Yeah, so let me take the second one first, Minaxi. With full disclosure, Minaxi had not shared the questions, so I was not prepared for answering these in that order. But I think on enterprise, just very clearly, see, enterprise had been, when we started off, to what Ronnie said, our approach, enterprise was always a very critical part of our journey. With a lot of what you see around, we see upGrad mostly in the consumer space and are doing a lot in the consumer ecosystem. But we strategically, enterprise played a very important role. And I know I met with all of you in different form and fashion. And early on, my meeting with enterprise was more to understand what we need to cover. Look, ultimately, we are building products that an AstraZeneca, a Fractal, a PwC, or a PowerGrid will end up absorbing that talent pool. And therefore, enterprise gave us slightly more what Ronnie said, preempting the trends, whether data engineering is going to go up, or behavioral science will pick up, or machine learning or digital marketing will pick up. Those trends came directly to us from the enterprise ecosystem, and therefore it allowed us to build a robust consumer platform as well. But I always felt, and this was about 5 years back, and then maybe I'll shift, Minaxi, on the trends piece, that while on the enterprise front, there's a solid opportunity, a place to disrupt. And I think 6-7 years back, when I used to talk about L&D leaders, and today conversation is very, very, very different. It used to be, okay, how do I measure effectiveness? I used to measure ratings. So out of scale of 5, out of scale of 10, how much would you rate? And I would ask the enterprise leaders, L&D leaders, how would you get to that rating? They said, look, it's very simple. If I do a good training, and I take them out to a 5-star hotel. Then I let them have a nice dinner. My ratings will shoot up significantly. So I used to maintain 9.5, 9.7 and above. But all the L&D leaders were very worried about that trend because they knew that that's not a sustainable trend. And I think that shift has happened. And that's the opportunity that we realize that, look, can we move our conversation from ratings to outcomes? And that was the initial hypothesis that we started working on the enterprise ecosystem. And from that time till today, Minaxi, if I just come to your first question on trends that we are seeing, and I think all of us have spoken about the trend, but three critical ones that at least we notice, and it's evolving very rapidly. Enterprise used to be very driven by learning libraries or the content libraries. We used to have the large library skill set that I can take subscription for 3,000 employees. You have access to as much content as you want to and consume. It's a buffet system, read as much, study as much. But as Sunita mentioned, that education is not that, I mean, it's not Netflix. It's not unlike that you can sit down and watch Queen's Gambit overnight and finish it off in one sitting. It requires that sort of human touch. So I think emergence of human touch in various learning, and not just what we are doing at upGrad, but I think all, I mean, from what Mrs. Matthews are doing, Sudhir is doing, Deepesh and Sunita are doing in their own organization, human touch and coaching is becoming very integral part of aligning with content. So we have great content on YouTube, I mean, Coursera, LinkedIn, and all those platforms. How do I bring in a human assisted learning? And that's one of the things that we did with AstraZeneca, where we worked a lot around building that human connect and human touch, and that helped us in achieving high completion and sort of higher engagement. The second thing that I'm seeing very different, Minaxi, today that we notice is that a lot of what we are talking is linked to outcomes. And I think both Sudhir and Deepesh mentioned on that front that it's a 40x return, or Deepesh mentioned, look, we had to do this because business was needing it. If business was not needing it, we would have gone for a toss. And that shift is quite significant than just making good learning. So it's not ratings, but how do I get to outcome-based learning? I think with Fractal, we came out with this unique model, and with PW, we came out with a unique model of how do we get them to get ready on day 0 or day +5 after joining the organization. So focus on outcome, both in consumer as well as in enterprise, becoming far more relevant. The last one, which is very interesting, and Sudhir, Deepesh, pardon us for sort of venturing into that zone, but we are seeing learning, quasi-learning come consulting model also emerging. So a lot of organizations who are for the taking up a new learning, let's say data or technology or managerial sort of training, we are seeing that don't just teach us, show us what the output is going to be. So with PowerGrid, we are doing a very interesting quasi-consulting come learning piece, where while we are training the folks in the organization, we are also working with faculty members from universities, IIT Bangalore, to take up specific projects at different intervention. So 3 months later, there will be a POC, 6 months later, there's going to be another POC, 12 months later, there's going to be a third POC, such that when we take it out, we take the full product for a final outcome. I think those three big trends of human touch, outcome-driven learning, and quasi-consulting come education, I mean, those are emerging trends that I'm seeing. Last one that I'll leave you with, because I saw Sudhir responding to that question, is that I think L&D is taking a center stage. We are now getting like Chief Digital Officer, Chief Data Officer, you have the Chief Learning Officer. But I think the point that all of us mentioned, creating personalized path, is a very complicated topic. There are about 1 billion+ ways of learning mathematics for a grade 5 student. Thus, making sure a person who moves from grade 1 to grade 2 or from L1 to L2, there are about 1 billion+ options that exist. And I think we are at a very nascent stage. I am very certain that in the next 3 to 5 years, you will start seeing the emergence of roles like learning engineers or learning scientists, because there's a massive science behind it. And I think Sudhir mentioned in one of the responses that you will require data scientists in the learning team. You will require product engineers in the learning team. You will require full stack developer in the learning team, because learning will emerge as a science, and it has to integrate very closely with the final outcome. I think that's my bits on this, Minaxi. I hope that answers what you were looking for.
Pretty exhaustive, Mayank. Thank you. And also for helping us run the journey of where enterprise came through and what we're currently doing. Very interesting focus that you've made about learning engineers, and we're hoping to have a lot more of these outcome-oriented, human-assisted conversations with our teams as we go forward.
Minaxi, on that note, I also want to highlight that so what we did over a period of time, folks, that we went across to enterprises. We tried to understand what are the challenges, what are the issues, and basis that we came out with a report also, which covered some of these learnings, and hopefully that report will also be sort of relevant for each one of you after the session as well. So with that, I will maybe let Minaxi share that sort of unveiling of the report, so that all of us get a sense of what we're looking at in that process as well.
Thank you for that, Mayank. And without further ado, I'm going to share my screen. And this is the teaser, and we'll talk about what we are unboxing for our audience. We want you to take something back from this session. And here we go. Let me know if the audio is visible.
Yes.
Yes. Audio, we have not heard it yet. So video is there.
Okay, video is there. All right. So that's our unboxing, and thank you for the acknowledgement, Sudhir. And this is what we wanted to leave with all of us today. As a team, based on our last year's plus interactions with all of you, we've gone back to almost 50 odd customers, our business partners, technocrats, educators, and we've actually partnered with companies like yours. We've also looked at industry leaders like Gartner and the Deloitte learnings from Burson. And we've actually created a business and learnings outcome report. This is going to be available to each one of our panelists and our attendees. There's a Google form feedback report that's going to come in. As soon as you fill it, we'll make sure that our marketing team sends it across. Just want to take like 2 minutes and talk about the sneak peek that you can view within this. So what Sudhir spoke about earlier, what Deepesh, Stanley, and Sunita alluded to, these are the top HR priorities that Gartner has spoken about as a 2021 priorities assessment by Gartners. This is something which is not new to all of us. We've all started working on this if we weren't already. And what we are glad to do is the way that upGrad Enterprise is looking at our solutions and our competencies for you is pretty much mapped to this as well. What we have tried to build based on the conversation that we've had today, and thank you to all our panelists and the audience who has sent their questions, is we are really focused on outcomes. And the outcomes might mean different things for a performer, which is an individual contributor. It might mean something different for a manager and completely different for a business leader. When we bring this all together, that's when business growth happens. And we've actually, through our solutions and delivery team, created different approaches for it, whether it's a micro credential, whether it's like a mid forum, or whether it's a deep learning. We've tried to build something or the other for each of your learning needs, making sure that we partner with you in every element of business and learning that you are looking at. A bit of a proof point, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of us are very data oriented, and this is a question that we get more often than not. We believe in powering business growth for you. There are 220 plus industry leaders who are working with us at upGrad. They offer mentorship guidance to the audience that comes to us for their learning needs. These are the ones that are passed on to organizations like yourself as well. When we look at upGrad, and especially when we look at upGrad Enterprise, when you look at all the courses and curriculum, there's a 90% plus program completion. Glad to share that this is something which is our secret sauce at that point in time, and this is a competitive advantage, at least for the near future. And ultimately, Ronnie spoke about it, Mayank spoke about it. Outcomes is what really gets us out of bed. Outcomes is what we are focused on for you as an organization. This is a different representation of what all do we do. So when we talk about human assisted and when we talk about blending, there's something in it for everyone. Sunita spoke about the different kinds of modalities. Stanley spoke about it. Deepesh spoke about business and the audience working together as learning. We have different forums that really creates an immersive and, if I may say, fun, immersive learning experience for your audience. It's not a chore, it's something that they get more out of. The feedback that we get learners is they actually became our biggest advocates in the organization. They are the ones who propel their colleagues and their managers to bring us more of these courses and curriculums into the organization. Another part of the data point for a few of you who might be looking at what's happening in the market, what does upGrad do and what does upGrad Enterprise do? The reason we've also spoken about upGrad and upGrad Enterprise is because we've invested in a customer success and a solutioning team, like Mayank mentioned, who's actually focused on customizing things for you as an organization. For example, what might work for A might not work for B. While there will be core commonalities, there are also things which are specific to you as an organization, and we are very conscious and cognizant of that. Just a quick view on how our courses are. This is something that I want to leave with each one of you. And this was a question that I also heard in the panel. We've heard a lot of interest in our audience to do leadership, sales, and change management courses. So the good news is we've heard this feedback. In the next 3 to 4 months, you will see all of this coming into our repository. So in case if this is what your organizations are talking to, please connect back with me or please reach out to your individual upGrad Enterprise representatives who are any which is knocking on your doors, and we can take these conversations forward. Bringing all of this together, you heard about the 10 commandments. You saw it on the teaser video as well. We have actually taken charge of 10 business value propositions that are the ones that are important to you as a company. They could be in the veins of employer branding, process optimization, succession planning, business growth, productivity, value, reskilling, and training budgets. We will have something or the other for each one of you. Very keen to understand. Please give us feedback on what made the most sense for you. And this is where we are. We are at the end of our session. Thank you so much for the interactions. I must say, we've had a larger audience than we expected. In fact, if I can be candid, we got 2x of the audience that we expected. So pretty much I got to roll up my sleeves after this and start ensuring that we connect back with each one of you to understand whether the session was useful, what are you really looking at, how can we work, and also take it as really a feedback mechanism for us. Are we doing enough? Are we not doing enough? What should we be doing more? So we are looking at you to tell us what should we be investing our time, energies, and courses on. Mayank, if I could pass it back to you to maybe summarize and wrap it up for us.
No, I think Minaxi have done everything. Thank you everyone. Thanks Sudhir, thanks Sunita, thanks Deepesh, thanks Stanley.
I just have a minute more to sum up myself also after Mayank finishes.
Yeah, no, we really appreciate you taking out time from a busy schedule. We are thankful for all the support that you have given us in building the partnership, and we look forward to building it even further. And thank you to all the participants who have come and joined us. We'll send you a summary of this over an email and the report as well, so that there's something tangible to take out to ensure that there's an ROI from the event also. So with that, thanks a lot, and I'll pass it on to Ronnie to summarize and sum it up.
Thanks, Mayank.
Yeah, no, there wasn't a summary up actually, but I was just watching the chats and the questions. So I just wanted to put a few anecdotal things maybe to end it with a little bit of fun. I think one of the questions was, how do we change some of the old world approaches to look at the future? Anecdotally, all I can say is, for anyone who's conversant with Vipassana, I do about 15 minutes of Anapana every morning. Okay, that's the only 15 minutes when I live in the present, because that's what you're supposed to do. And the balanced 17 hours of my working day is clearly and absolutely one where one is looking at tomorrow and the future. And I think that's what we all, I guess, in some form need to do in some. There was a question here on relevance of, there's so much of free content. I think we've deliberated a lot today to establish that content is not really the way in which anyone's going to necessarily learn. And that's a very, very strong subject. It's not about the best TED talk. It's about how there's a learning process with a high sense of retention. And I think for all of us here as learning heads, whichever way we do that, with upGrad, without upGrad, on your own internally, that's an important one. I think somebody asked about future of corporate learning. I just have three very clear thoughts on that. Please don't look at learning as an event. Because then we kind of calendar it, then there's an SOP and all of that is required. But let's not look at lifelong learning now as an event, because it's an ongoing process. And if you take the event part of it out, saying over the next 3 years, these are my curriculums, this is my this thing, and see how we can do that, which actually brings me to the next one, which is that non-linear thinking in learning, non-linear thinking in entire is going to be very important. And for me, the basic premise of non-linear is you have to give up 70 to 80% of all precedents. If you're not leaving behind precedents, but only hanging on to them, you're not thinking non-linear. And the second one is, are we taking enough risks? So I think for anyone, especially in a field where you can have a high comfort zone in what you want to do in the status quo, I think leaving behind precedents and taking a few risks is just very clear. And lastly, I think we can sit here, all of us, and talk about visionary. For me, anyone visionary is a slight sliver between being before your time and visionary. And visionary is mostly in hindsight that people call you. When you're taking that risk, nobody's really being visionary about anything else. So I would urge everyone, let's not wait for another external factor to force us to get a momentum now to what we want to really do. And I think the word learning comes out most. But to me personally, I think raising aspiration levels, raising ambition levels, raising attitude, and raising confidence levels is as much what I think we need to do with our colleagues and our employees and our team members, as much as we specialize them in what we want them to do. Because if we can get some of the ambitions and some of the confidence levels up, their ability to learn on the job, not take 3 months off to do a course, is also going to be very high. So just some of my takeaways from some questions here. Thank you.
No, thanks for that, Ronnie. You've actually addressed all the questions that were unanswered on our Q&A panel as well. So really appreciative of it. And we are on time. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day forward. And this is not the last that you're going to see of us. Watch this space for more. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. All the best.